All right. So my first question for you, sir, is Jonathan, is what is your experience and your background and education, if you like to share that.
I've been politically active most of my life. My family's been politically active. My mom's been an elected official since I've been in high school. So naturally, it was something for me to be involved in. I was the chairman of the Seneca County Democratic Party for the last 4 years. I didn't run this time; someone else is, taking over for me. I've been on the Democratic Central Committee for a while here. I'm really active in a lot of progressive things. That's about what my background is.
So just to look at introduction, this is Mike Larson, and would you like to talk about your background and experiences that you'd like to share?
Sure. I've been very lucky to have kind of two careers that went on simultaneously. I was a comedy writer, a television comedy writer and comedian for many years. Still do that to some degree. But I worked on a whole bunch of great shows, including The Drew Carey Show and Ellen and Two Guys and a Girl and Real Time with Bill Maher. But then simultaneously with that, I've worked in politics. I started writing speeches for progressive politicians when I was in college. And then I followed that up by working on a bunch of campaigns and did a couple of stints in Washington. The most recent was 2008 to 2012 was a communications director for Congresswoman Jackie Spear, who represents Northern California. And then I moved to Ohio, which is where my wife's from. I took advantage of an early retirement from the Writers Guild that let me take it at 52, which was awesome. So we took it and moved out here, continue to write. Before COVID, I was going back and forth to LA all the time for meetings. Obviously haven't been doing that. Although I am just back from a epic road trip to San Francisco where my dad lives. I drove out there last month. In fact, the last time we talked was from my dad's house, the house I grew up in. So I drove out, kind of fixed up my dad's house and hung out with him for a few weeks. He's 88 and getting to the point where, you say, let's make sure I get to see my dad one more time. Hopefully he'll still be here after we all get vaccinated and we can go see him again. But I wanted to make sure of it.
Yeah. So yeah, you lived an awesome. I know a lot of people that would be impressed, very impressed with your resume, your life experiences, your and I quite enjoyed our last talk. That was a really fun good talk, and it was my first interview ever.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. No, I took a lot of chances. Nothing I did was ever. The odds were never in my favor. To be a television writer, God, there's 100 million people want those jobs, and there's maybe 100 jobs, and it's super competitive. But I went into everything with the knowledge that I would probably fail, and that's cool,
Yeah, smart.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
my first question.
There's a lot of people who would prefer to just have a steady job that lasts for 40 years, and that's great, and they probably end up better off in the long run. But that's just not for me. I'm always looking for my next adventure.
Yeah, that's really amazing and interesting and wonderful. I hope one day I could be as interesting as you.
Yeah, well, you fall. My greatest story. This is kind of like my mantra is the idea of this woman wrote an essay where she talked about constant forward motion. She said,
Yeah.
"You're going to fall, so fall forward." And she told the story of there's this 100-mile race across Death Valley that they do in like August,
Oh
and
my
it's
goodness.
120 degrees. She, I think, had just had gotten a divorce or something. She wanted to try something. She knew nothing about the race. She just signed up, and you have a van there with you to give you water and stuff. And so she just kept moving. She kept moving, and at the end, she had no idea where she was in the pack. Turns out, not only did she win, but she shattered the record, because the way you run that race is you run at night and then you sleep during the day and then you run at night. And so most people, it takes like 4 days, and she did it in like 20 hours. Uh,
Wow.
but the idea was, she said, I just kept moving. I kept moving, even if and that was, she said, if you're gonna fall forward. And I just kind of love that idea that you take
Yeah.
baby steps.
Very, very profound. Very profound story. My first question for you,
Right.
would you like to be addressed as chairman or city council member or?
City council member is fine. That works for me.
Okay.
I'm easy going. Oh, Justin's fine too. So whatever works.
Okay, cool. Nice. Very nice. Um, my first question is, do you have any thoughts and experiences or background that you would like to share?
Well, I'll tell you my political background a little bit. I
Please do.
ran for city council years ago when I was 18, right out of high school, and did not get elected to that. And then I tried again, and things did not work out for that. So I took a little break from politics for a few years. And then in 2008, I was elected chairman of the Republican Party and locally, and I've had that position the last 12 years. So I've been doing it a long time. For one of the longest serving party chairs on the Republican side in this area of Ohio. I don't know about the Democratic side. And in 2017, I was elected to Fremont City Council and will be seeking a second term in 2021. So I've been involved in that. I have a degree in social studies education from Heidelberg University, and work as a substitute teacher right now over at Clyde High School. So that's basically my.
Impressive. Impressive.
Well, I've been doing this for a long time. I started out as a young. I've always been interested in politics. So since I was like, I memorized the presidents when I was 7 years old, and the rest is history. So
Cool. Cool. Very nice.
And let's get started. My very first question is, what is your background in government or in anything that you like to share about your background at this moment?
Well, okay. I mean, how far back do you want me to go? I mean,
Just
my
like
background.
anything that's like that you think that would be like interesting, or something that you think that would be good to know for people watching this right now. And I'm gonna mostly edit out all of my talking and all my scenes. I'm gonna edit it out and just have you and other interviewers talk.
Right. Well, you may not be aware, but I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, and that's where I spent most of my time up until my college years, where I graduated from Ohio State. I moved down to Columbus and finished up my studies in political science with the undergraduate degree there, and took off to Europe with about $400 in my back pocket and a backpack and a one-way ticket. So I took off to Europe. I had some relatives in Italy. I looked them up. I also had a contact through my dad's side, on the German side, to look a couple of gentlemen up in Germany,
Oh
West
wow,
Germany at the time. This was in 1980.
wow.
So I eventually made my way up to Munich. But long story short, I ended up getting a job in Munich, working in a machine shop
Yeah,
just by the Olympic stadium where the 72 Olympics were held.
yeah.
And I was legal. I was illegal first. I was an illegal immigrant for a short time, and then I got legal. And in a matter of days, it was a real simple process. And I ended up staying 10 months. I made enough money where I saved up to go to a graduate school in Paris the following year. Then after that, I finished that up and came back, worked in the family business for a little bit. Got into politics in '84, working on an independent campaign for John Anderson. That was a petition gathering campaign to get him on the ballot in Ohio. And then I joined Gary Hart's campaign. And we won the primary that year against Walter Mondale. Then I took off to Washington. It became an international tax paralegal. That got me to London. I got married, got me to London for a couple of years, back, had a baby, and then on to the Middle East for the next 5.5, 7 years.
Wow.
Where I was in Bahrain. I worked for an investment bank there. And I did a lot of different things. My background for them was part legal advisor, even though I don't have a law degree, but I did a lot of specialized tax work where I was setting up Cayman Islands corporations, bank accounts in Europe, running a lot of money around for the Arabs. We bought and sold companies on a stock exchange here in the United States and abroad, bought property, everything else. So we'd take their oil money. We were an investment bank. We took their oil money and then we invested it into better returns for them. So I worked on a lot of the legal issues surrounding that. The corporate structure, the offshore tax structure that our attorneys in the U.S. set up. My original boss in Washington ended up being, I was his client. I became the client in effect.
Oh wow!
Even though I still took orders from him, in a manner of speaking. And I became a social director, for these guys too. I started setting up charity tournaments on the island, where our bank was one of the lead providers. So golf tournament, helped arrange that. I was in a charity relay race, arranged that. Our involvement, set up special events for our bank employees. The south of France, we had an investors conference right in Cannes, outside of Cannes actually, and 3 springs in a row I flew there and would sit down with the CEOs of the American companies, the European companies that were going to give presentations to the Arabs. I'd go over their video presentations and I'd help edit them, PowerPoint presentations, things like that.
Yeah.
And it was my idea actually to start having them bring their merchandise. Those companies that produce product, bring it to the show the following year, and then now these participants can not just hear a presentation but see it, feel it, because the product was on the floor.
Yeah.
This was all during the 90s. Then in 99, I was in New York at that point. My son is autistic. We had left the Middle East, got him some care in Connecticut, and I finished up with the bank and found out about the restaurant in Upper through my brother. There's a couple people involved, and then I ended up buying a restaurant in Upper. So from 2000 to 2008, my wife and I operated the restaurant in Upper Sandusky, but the recession took us out.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I became, just before the close the restaurant, I already got my CDL, so I was driving long haul for FedEx, cross country.
Yeah.
I ended up working in a factory, driving forklift, writing a novel. Then I became an insurance guy. I substitute taught for like 6 years down in Tri Rivers in Marion, at the trade school there. I got my real estate license. I started my own business with credit card processing, a side business. So I represented clients, taking care of their processing needs, credit card needs. So I've done a number of different things. I got involved in the natural gas business a little bit. So most of that had happened just in the last 10 years.
Yeah. That's.
But the politics is always there because I was on city council. I had the restaurant, ran for state rep in 2008, lost in the primary, and ran for mayor here in Upper too. That's when when the things were going down south for us after 2008. That's when I decided, hey, I'm going to give up the politics, just knuckle down, work some jobs, and survive. And but I was chomping at the bit the whole time. I was just getting more and more irate because of what Obama was not doing. I could just see the writing on the wall. When Strickland got beat, I worked for Sheriff Brown in 2006. I was his county coordinator here.
Mhm.
and we took 47% of the vote, which is considered a win.
Yeah.
Um, as opposed, now that's before the gerrymandering, before the redistricting took place in 2010, which explains a lot. But the Democrats are still losing the rural vote.
Yeah.
And so the time I've been here, Matt, even though I'm a Cleveland boy and I've traveled all over the world and everything else, the last 20 years of my life here has really taught me a lot about the rural life and appreciation of it and how things work. And that's the message that the Democrats still fail to get. And that's why we're getting our ass kicked. We're winning Cleveland and Cincinnati and Columbus, but we're losing these rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's as quick as I can go is on the background. And it's pretty varied.
Yeah, that's sounds that's really interesting. All that you've done, and that's great. Yeah. All right. So my first question for you, old friend, is what is your experience and background, if you like to share any?
My background in what now?
Mostly in politics or in anything else you'd like to share about your background, education, or experiences.
All right, yeah. So, we'll start way back. I got turned on to politics late in high school. That would have been around I was 17 or whatever when the second George W. Bush election was going on, and I took a political compass test. We all know the famous political compass test, and it just kind of at the time it shoved me in the green quadrant, and but it told me it told me a bunch of stuff. I was clicking on stuff and I was reading stuff. I eventually got interested in politics that way. Started working. I did a little volunteer action and worked a little bit with Move On in 2008. And let's see, no real political stuff. I went to school at Kent State, had a lot of really politically active in college, but I supported the Occupy movement. And a few years ago, not directly out of school, but I met a guy. We joined the IWW. The local chapter in Ohio fell apart, and I went and stayed with the people who decided to open up the DSA in Columbus. And other than that, I do a lot of posting, a lot of very important posting. I do know some people that actually do follow me, not just for me being humorous, but because they say I engage. I will reasonably engage with them politically, and I think that's nice of them to say that, because I'm probably normally not being reasonable, or I'm being very blunt.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No.
That's all? All right. Sounds good. My first question, Andy, is what is your thoughts and experiences, if you have any, with ranked choice voting?
I have the only experience I've ever had with ranked choice voting would have been in a small group setting. There was a club I was in college, and we actually chose we chose our leadership using ranked choice voting, just because it made more sense. If somebody were to say they actually didn't want in, whatever, they could step down. Next person would be able to step in. But my opinions on it is that I've seen it in practice following UK elections, and I believe that's probably the best way to get an actual. If we want to continue to describe what we do as a democracy, then we should be implementing this ranked choice voting system, because it is a more democratic system compared to a winner takes all system.